everybody, it's Harrison. Welcome back to Maine Connects, your source for all things small business and real estate in Maine. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about gardening. Now, to most of us, gardening can be a frustrating exercise of climbing around on our hands and knees, pulling weeds, hoping something grows. And the challenges that we have were solved by today's guests. So today's guests are Kerry and Chris Stetson, and they are the local owners and founders of Ergonomic Gardens. Ergonomic Gardens makes these raised garden beds out of galvanized steel, and they utilize a system in which you load these beds a certain way to get the best results. What you end up with is a better garden, less strain on your back and your knees, and likely a better experience in your garden. So for those of you that are gardeners and looking for a better answer, I think today's episode will be great for you. Hope you enjoy it. I'm joined today by Kerry and Chris Stetson, the owner of Ergonomic Gardens. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so great to have you. So why don't you take a moment here and introduce yourselves and give a little bit about your background.
I'm Kerry Stetson.
I'm Chris Stetson. We've been in Maine for 20 years.
About 20 years. We've been in our current house for about 15 years, and we started a garden when we got here. And we started tilling ground, the way people would traditionally do, and that worked really well for a few years. But we are on marine clay and poor soils, and we were tilling every year and just really killing our biome and killing our soil, and it kept getting overtaken by weeds, and we thought there must be a better way to go.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research and kind of arrived on a terraced approach, but unfortunately we don't live on a mountainside or a volcano. So to create a terrace, we needed to have some kind of structure, and we didn't want to make wooden raised garden beds because they don't last very long. It's hard to build them up high enough to get what we wanted. So I originally wanted to use highway culverts and cut them into sections, and did a lot of running around trying to find a highway culvert. It turns out to be very expensive and not very practical. So the question was, how do you make something like this? How do you manufacture it? And we did a little more research, and it turns out in Australia.
Yeah, we were inspired by how they garden in Australia. Everyone seems to have water tanks because of poor water quality. And once the tanks start leaking, they didn't know what to do with them. They started turning them over and building gardens in them. We started researching that, how to get the corrugated steel. And we also found that a lot of our competitors' products were really short. And that doesn't help if you have a bad back or you can't bend over, or so we really focused on making something that was ergonomic, and that's why our beds are 36 inches high. And right now there isn't another bed on the market that is that high. And I'm 5'2" and Chris is 6'2", and we both can stand comfortably and work at these beds without bending, and that was really important to us. So once we landed on that, we needed to find a machine that we could make our product with.
Yeah. So we actually stood out in the yard and sort of mimed out what the ideal garden would be standing across from one another. And we created this imaginary model in the yard, and then sort of drew it up and sourced the steel right here in the United States, which is different. A lot of the steel you find in other beds is from Asia Pacific.
That was important to us for two reasons. One, we wanted to be made in the USA. We want to stay homegrown and get products from this country. And also it turns out that USA steel is a much better quality product than what you could say buy in Asia Pacific.
Yeah, and they'll tell you exactly what's in it too. They'll get an analytical report so you can know, it's iron and carbon and zinc, and the zinc coating is 99% pure or greater. So we felt really good about using that steel.
I love that. The best solutions come out of a personal need, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it was a very personal need because
very versatile need.
We really love our garden, and we like getting food out of it. It's sort of it's a very spiritual, kind of enriching thing for our family to go out and take something and bring it in for dinner. And those last 3 years, when the weed pressure really started to get high in our soil, we had pretty much killed off our soil biome by tilling it several times a year. And in the pandemic year, when food was sort of, for some reason, questionable availability, and gardening, we were gardening like it mattered, like pilgrims. August came, September came, and there were just weeds everywhere. You just couldn't beat it. So with this method, you get up off the ground, get a much earlier start. There's no seed bank from the weeds because you're using compost for your topsoil. And if you see a weed, you don't have to get down in the ground to get it. You just reach out, pick it up, drop it on the ground. So everything's waist high. It's just so much more pleasant.
It's much more pleasant. So after figuring out how to get the machine to make the beds and then sourcing the steel, it really took us a couple of years to figure it all out. Chris has a background in science. He's a chemist, and my background is in art. I used to design lingerie. So we came at this from very different career backgrounds, and so figuring all that out took some time. But we got there, and the first thing we did was we made a lot of beds for our own garden. We wanted to make sure that we could make a bed that we felt was sellable, that we understood everything about it and how to garden that way before we were trying to teach other people to do it. So that first year we put 17 of our own beds in our garden, which was a lot to do all at once.
Yeah, it was quite an effort to fill them. But it turns out there's a hugelkultur method where you build up wood mounds and then cover those with soil. It came out of Eastern Europe, where they have poor soils, and they used wood to sort of augment their soil volume, and then they get a great soil biome out of it. So we used hugelkultur to fill the beds most of the way, and then just the top part is, compost and garden soil. So
we actually have a YouTube video on it, so if you want to see how to fill the beds, like Chris said, it really starts with a wood base, and then leaves and compost, grass clippings. We happen to have compost from our chicken coop, which works really well. And then you top it off with the dirt. And this creates this whole biome where all of the insects come up from below. There's fungus, there's nutrients. It's no-till, you have permaculture, there's no weeds. So the whole thing, you control the quality of your soil. So if you're in bad soils or clay like us, the fertilization you can control. It's all just so much better.
Yeah, we used to try and amend our clay soil because our garden's 30 by 90, and we would put a lot of material into that, and the clay soil just disappears. It goes right into the ground, no matter how much steam you put in there. So people ask, what's the best soil amendment for clay? And I would say steel.
Just gardening done upright.
Get it out of the clay, right?
Get out of the clay.
Get out of the clay. And then
there's some things that, like potatoes, don't fight it. Maine potatoes, clay,
it's Maine.
Go with it. Grow
your potatoes in the ground.
Right there in the ground.
And especially for this year, 2023, with all the rain, this significant amount of rain, so many people have lost their gardens because they were just flooded out. And we were able to maintain our garden. We're up off the ground. Now, we have to walk around in ankle-deep mud to get to our beds. But if our garden had been on the ground this year, we would have lost the battle like so many other people.
Right. It was still hard for us, but we gardened right through it. And even today, if I go out there now, I'll be ankle deep in mud. It's just flat, it doesn't drain very well. But I'm gardening right there.
But our beds are fine.
Yeah.
We are.
The slugs and
That's
snails
fascinating.
this year.
So you've got American steel, you've got an Australian tank concept, and a European kind of fill concept of how you put this all together. How did you marry all these three up? Was there a lot of trial and error? Did you just try to go find the best of each practice and bring them together? What was that process like?
Pretty much everything was out of necessity. It was a progression. We wanted to get up high off the ground, so you can't get steel from anywhere else than in the United States. The shipment would kill you. And we wanted to be made in the USA all the way through. So we got to that, and 36 inches high. And then you got to fill that's quite a bit, it's a couple of yards for a mid-sized garden bed, one of our mid-sized garden beds. So you don't want to fill that with soil. It would be too expensive. So you look for an economical way to fill it, and we kind of had our eye on hugelkultur because they use that in Australia to fill those big tanks before they start gardening.
It was born out of necessity.
Yeah.
Then we chose the methods because they were tried and true, things that other people have used. We tried to bring together the best concepts for gardening and Other people had done a bit of the trial and error on it, and then we did a little bit of our own. So yeah, we felt like we brought the best resources together and landed at what we think is one of the best products out there.
When we were filling 17 of our beds, then we buy some beds from other bed makers just so we understand what the pluses and minuses of them are. So we were filling about 20 in that first year, and we got to a place where we can't find enough logs to fill all these beds. So we found arborists in Maine. They can't get rid of their wood chips. In fact, they were thrilled to know that we wanted wood chips in our yard, and they just kept coming. So that was another, out of necessity, how do you solve this problem? And it turns out wood chips are a great compromise. They don't work perfectly because fresh wood chips don't absorb water very well, and they get quite hot when they first start breaking down.
So you're filling your own beds, you're using competitors' beds, you're kind of prototyping as you go. When you finally reached that point, you felt, okay, this is the product. This is what we're going to do. How did you find somebody to make these for you? That's always the question I get from small business owners. I've got an idea, but who's going to make it? How'd you go out and find a production facility or a location to do these?
We bought all the equipment, and
It's us. We're making them by hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We got some space up at the Air Force Base in Brunswick, and we wired one day during the pandemic, because you couldn't fly anywhere. So we were doing everything through WeChat, And one day it was time to wire money to a guy on the other side of the planet with the idea that he was going to make this machine that we designed and put it on a boat.
Yeah, we
That's a big
took
leap.
a big chunk of money and said, this is what we're going to invest.
He did it.
And we needed this machine because the way these beds are made, we order our galvanized corrugated sheets. We use our machine to bend them. We cut them by hand. We punch them by hand. We have a trim that goes on the top. And it's just the two of us. We are making these beds.
We didn't want to have, if we were going to have the beds made for this type of product, it would have to be made basically in China, which is fine. It's a beautiful culture. I love the people over there, but we would lose control over the material inputs and
The quality.
So we really wanted to have American steel. It doesn't help us on price competitive, on a price competition front, but we're doing it that way, and we're stubborn.
Most of our competitors are made out of China, and they cut the beds up into very small pieces so that it comes in a box in the mail. They're much shorter than ours. The steel is not as good quality. The corrugation pattern they use in Asia Pacific is it's bigger than ours. In the United States, we use a tighter corrugation pattern, which inherently makes the steel stronger. So if you see them side by side, it's very clear the difference. Some of the competitors that we bought, they're already kind of bowing and they're flimsy.
Yeah.
So.
And they paint them.
And they paint them.
Which looks great, but then
okay, interesting.
But we were going to do that. We were going to start with a whole color palette, but in the end, we decided it was better to have a really simple formulation for the containers.
And something that we can say, we already know there's nothing here that you can't consume.
Yeah.
Truly made in Maine, handmade, with love by the both of you.
Yes.
And we deliver them too.
And we deliver them.
Yeah.
So when you order from us, you actually get to meet us and interact with us. And people ask us all kind of gardening questions, and so we started a YouTube channel to hopefully answer people's questions. We have a video about how to put the bed together if you don't want us to come to your place and put it together for you. And we have a YouTube video on how to fill them, because that we don't do. We will deliver and put the bed together and leave it for you to fill and plant.
It's actually a really cool part of the job, because you get to see all different parts of Maine that I've never seen before.
And it's really fun to interact with other gardeners and to see how they're gardening and, their reasons why they're buying the beds.
Our customers are pretty awesome people. They're all gardeners. So you go and you stand in a garden with another gardener and build these beds, and they stand with you and chat about what they're going to do, and a lot of them are master gardeners too, which is a little intimidating because they really, we're just people that grow food at home.
Well, people that don't garden think we're master gardeners because we can actually grow food and eat it. But yeah.
Some of these people really know they're gardening.
It's
pretty intimidating sometimes.
But I would say the majority of our customers buy them. Some people buy product and they're like, how am I going to garden here? There's no place where I could really garden. But this is kind of a self-contained thing. All you do is put it down where there's some sunshine, where it can drain, and you've got a garden. Or we have customers that they really need the height. The 36-inch height thing is just what they need. We have some people that bought them for their elderly parents, and it's the only way they can garden now. And some people just want to be off the ground.
Some people are avoiding woodchucks.
Some people are avoiding woodchucks. You still need to put
there's the truth to that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what made you realize as you were going along this path that this could be a business? People will buy these, and because they're facing the same troubles that we are.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a leap because we really wanted them and couldn't buy them for ourselves. In fact, when we first started, there was no product availability of any kind. We thought we were going to have no competition at all, and thought this is going to be great. So we were pretty sure we were going to be able to find a market of people like us and we're set up to work in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. So pretty much from Boston to Bar Harbor, we say.
And over to the White Mountains.
Yeah, and over to the White Mountains. So, we had an idea that, it's a couple million people. We really wanted them. I think we can make a go of this. While we were waiting for the machine to come over, competitors started popping up, and we thought, well, we make a much better product, thankfully. We're not competing head-to-head. We went up the quality scale. But it hasn't been easy. The competition's pretty stiff right now.
Well, when we first conceived of this, we couldn't find it for sale. We would have bought something if it was out there. We had to make it for ourselves. And I thought, geez, there must be other people. And as we talked to other people, they were like, yeah, we want that too. We want that too. And we thought we'll have this nice kind of retirement side gig for when we stop working. And then that's happened sooner than later. And here we are. Now we decided to go into this as our full-time business. And it was a learning curve because we haven't done that before. So how do we set up our website? When do we launch this? And we really thought we had to have everything buttoned up and answered before we could launch a website, thinking it would be out there and people would see it. It actually takes some months before anybody sees a website because of the way search engines are and work, whatever. So, and advertising, all of this is a big learning curve of what you need to do with a new business and where we should be and where we should advertise, what trade shows should we be in. And so we've spent about 8 months learning all of that while having our website up. But we've had some fun things that have happened. The Green Home and Energy show that is put on, that's a really good trade show. Everybody should go to that. And we entered a design contest for our home garden in Maine Homes by Down East Magazine, and we won the design contest. So that was pretty fun. We got published in the magazine. And now we're talking to you.
Very cool.
We feel pretty, our customers that we have, we have a pretty good tribe of customers. They're very happy with us when they get them. So, we feel like we're on the right track.
So along the same line of kind of the challenges, you guys have this great concept. You send out that mystery payment, hoping that the equipment shows up. You start some manufacturing. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of those kind of bumps along the road you've had with getting the word out there and selling it and delivering it, and what are some of those other challenges that came with getting this grassroots kind of effort, this grassroots business off the ground?
I would say we did everything we did for the first time, and none of it worked.
Well, we did it for the first time, and sometimes it's like, oh, that worked. Really.
Nothing worked. Like the first garden beds we made with the machine, it's all computer controlled, but steel doesn't want to bend.
Tell them how you broke the machine when you
and I
first
broke
used
the
it.
machine. I went making the first garden bed. I broke the machine.
Don't worry, you fixed it.
I did
Oh
fix
man.
it. But I had my cell phone on a tripod with WeChat, and I'm talking to this guy on the other side of the planet at midnight, and he walked me through taking the whole thing apart, putting it back together again.
Well, now he knows how to do it.
Yeah.
He breaks it again. But yeah, just
getting the word out
Yeah,
is
there you go.
really difficult. We tried a lot of things. We did some radio, which was super fun, and we did a TV spot with the Maine public, which was also fun. But we're finding Google and Facebook ads and hustle are really working better. So we're finding trade shows that work and some trade shows that don't. And Google and Facebook definitely is driving a lot of traffic. And actually, oddly enough, Google's been really great. This might sound, when I say this, people find it surprising. I told the story yesterday that people were surprised. Google contacted us 2 or 3 weeks ago and said, we want to help you do better. And I thought it was a phishing thing. I thought it was a scam. I kept hanging up on the guy. He kept calling back. And then he spent, I want to say he spent almost 6 hours with me building a new ad campaign and optimizing it. And then he checks in with me every week to optimize it more. He's going to work with me for a month, and they're doing it for free. I can't believe it. The data is
well, the nice part with Google is that usually you find people that are like searching like with intent. They want something like that.
Right.
So you tend to catch that person that's got that need. But you're right. You know, in the internet with all those potential search results, you know, how do you make sure that you're the one they see and not all the others that are available?
Well, he spent a lot of time.
So are you still selling this only directly, only off your website, only through you guys?
Right. Yeah. We're just starting out, so like doing everything for the first time and very little of it working. Our margins are right now not great because we're just starting out. So there's overhead, there's like waste overhead everywhere. We're buying steel in small quantities, so we can't really share with like a garden center right now. So what we want to do is, you know, take some of the costs out and get more profitable, and then partner with some garden centers.
Yeah. It's our goal to partner with local gardening centers, you know, not big box stores or anything like that, but local family businesses that this would be a complementary product to what they're doing. But like Chris said, we need to get a little bit further down the road so that we are getting better pricing on our supplies so that we can pass that off to a retail partner.
Yeah, makes sense. So for right now, if somebody wants to learn more about the company and see the product, you mentioned a YouTube channel, but you've also got a website. What are those? Where would they find those?
So our website is ergonomicgardens.com, and you can see kind of an explanation of how we got the company started. You can see our products and their description, and there's a fair number of photos. Then we have our YouTube channel, which we call Elevated Garden. We welcome people to our Elevated Garden. Our Facebook is Ergonomic Gardens.
And all the links to YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram are on the website.
And you can contact us right through
Awesome.
our website.
Great. So, and if somebody's having issues with a garden or thinking about making a change, you know, what's the best piece of advice you'd give to somebody who's in the spot that you are thinking about how to make their garden better or what they should do next?
Well, without pitching our products directly, I would say the big turning point for me was I would go out a couple times this summer, maybe say 3 times, and spend the entire weekend weeding on my hands and knees. And at the end of the year, I would still have weeds. And after spending two days full weeding, I would turn my back on the garden and not look back for a week. Then I'd go back out and the weeds would be back. So the garden wasn't as pleasant a place for me as it could be, so I wasn't spending enough quality time out there. So my advice would be to make the garden as enjoyable as you can. Make it nice. Then you're out there every day, and there's a saying, the best fertilizer for a garden is the gardener's shadow. So if you're out there every day, you'll see things and do a little bit every day. You'll see a weed, you'll pull it, you'll see something tipped over, you'll prop it back up. If it's pleasant, you'll do that every day. If you make it hard, you're not going to do it every day. So make it easy.
It's true. Make it easy. Enjoy it. We found that gardening done upright for us was the most enjoyable way to do it. These garden beds just really simplify it and make it a lot easier and enjoyable and rewarding.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So really appreciate your time today sharing Ergonomic Gardens, your story, the product. For those of you that are thinking about your gardens, maybe making them better, trying to do something different, I would definitely check out ergonomicgardens.com. With that, thanks so much, Chris and Kerry.